Hello everybody, Anaris here with another StarCraft 2 broadcast. Today we're going to be continuing our Best of series with Minigun, spawning as the blue Protoss over in the top left position against EmpireHappy, the yellow Terran, almost said red, up in the top right position here today on Shakura's Plateau. Now, previous match we saw this very interesting airplay by EmpireHappy. I feel like it was almost a seamless transition. I don't know if he was planning to do that from the start. I feel like that gas harass was somewhat effective, but Happy just kind of smoothly went with the flow and did some Banshee harassment. Worked out pretty well. But Minigun was ready for it, and ultimately Minigun just didn't have stuff. I mean, really what it comes down to is he had like 4 Colossi, 4 Sentries, and 4 Stalkers, and, well, Happy came at him with everything in the book, including the book. He actually picked it up, threw it at Minigun, and it hit him square in the forehead. So we're here today to see if Happy maybe is going to switch it up a little bit, although I feel like he realized enough success maybe to try the same strategy again. I don't know how it's going to turn out. We'll just wait and see. Certainly, I mentioned that because being Shakura's Plateau, it's a little bit easier to hold your expansion on, say, this map compared to Test Bug, namely because, look at that ramp, nice and tiny, so you can go for like a 1-gate fast expand, or, excuse me, 1-gate expand. I would just throw fast in there, I use it a little bit too loosely. But, we're waiting to see what happens. Here comes the probe. We'll watch it and see if it decides to cap that gas again, or if Minigun is going to be going for a different style of play. Now, I feel like in the early game, last game, Minigun was sitting in a great position. He anticipated that That's a little bit of a, oh, there we go. Anyways, he anticipated that Banshee harass very well, and we saw how it really didn't affect him that much. The Banshee got more kills by basically abusing the terrain than doing anything else. So now, we do have that gas stolen again. I have a feeling that Happy may just go ahead and transition into that Banshee play again. It would work out very well considering that they're both spawning up here in the top. You know, there's just a short aerial rush distance between these two players' bases, and can be traversed very quickly. Also by Blink Stalkers, that's pretty effective as well, depending on when you send them over. But for now, we're going to watch Happy continue to skid around the base. And basically, I think he's just kind of waiting to see, okay, there's no gas here, and there's no units yet either. We, of course, can look and see that probe coming down. Good timing by Minigun, catching it right as that SCV was coming around away from the ramp and slipping it down there super quiet-like. So the expansion is down. We do see that geyser is going to be taken out as well. And that factory, so yeah, I think we're going to be seeing more Banshee harass today, which, again, I'm really not sure how effective it's going to be. There are pros and cons, which we've already talked about here. So it's really going to come down to the micromanagement and the game sense here of Minigun. Is he going to sense that same style of play? It's very likely. Now, my question is, how is he going to adjust the mid-game from his previous build? We saw that, well, we already kind of went over what he did and how he ended up losing. So, game number 2 here, I'm thinking maybe if he can just go ahead and get out some additional foot troops, zealots, a few more stalkers to help counter those Vikings if he decides to go with the early Colossus. Again, that Colossus, man, it's so, to me, I see it as relatively risky to open with that, unless you plan on doing just a substantial amount of damage. Colossi are not something you want sitting around in your base, and here's why. I'm explaining game number 1. Terran, if they scout it, it's so easy for a bioplay to counter it. Just knock out a few Vikings from your starport that's already building, you know, those medevacs. You're golden. So that's kind of a transition that you need to make sure that you can do enough damage to make it worth it. Now, if he decides to go for something like Templars, that's what I feel to be a little bit more effective now. Again, yes, EMP can just obliterate the energy on those High Templar, but there are steps you can take to prevent that. Number 1, loading it into a War Prism. Number 2, keeping the High Templar far behind your army. Little things like that, and bringing them in for when it counts. So, we'll wait and see what Minigun has in store here, as he is opening up with a very similar build, I feel, from game number 1. 3-gate, Robo, he had that early expansion, and now, of course, we could see those units start to warp in as well. So this robotics facility going down, is it just going to be for an observer, or is he going to try to push some units out of this other than that? I'm really anxious to see what happens now. Now, Happy down here, he's got the Hellion. I think he's got the right idea. Yes, the Stalker can take out the Hellion without too much difficulty, but the Hellion has mobility. It has that. It has the ability to come around the map, different locations, different expansions, check for probes, check for hidden expos, anything like that. Even some proxy pylons. Doesn't have quite as much mobility as the Stalker. Now, Blink obviously increases that a little bit, but the fact is, Hellions are just bloody fast. So here comes that Banshee for Happy. You see, obviously has 0 kills. It does have Cloak, so that's going to be something we're going to be watching for here. Now notice, Minigun has these 2 sentries and 1 Stalker. He does have the Observers, that's good, but those sentries will go down fairly quick if he's not careful with them. He's got to get that Observer in there quick. Make sure that Stalker is the one taking the damage. Yep, sure enough, we see those Sentry. One more shot from that, and it would have been 100 gas down the drain. Now, we also got to be careful with that Banshee there, as he is actually getting some pretty good, decent shots on that Stalker. Total kills for that, 3. So, okay, it did a pretty decent amount of damage, but I'm sure that he's not happy about it. Get it? So, he's going to maybe poke around the natural. Come down here, but again, Minigun, he's got, double the Observers, double the fun down here. It looks like this one's actually mounting the other. Whoa, no wonder these guys are way too busy to actually come up here and check out this Banshee. And she knows she's in a good position, so she's just going to go ahead and let the energy build up there on her Cloak. But there was another Banshee that came up here. Didn't, again, realize that many kills, just 2 overall. And looking over here, we have Happy going ahead with this expansion. You see, everything's looking very nice for him. Let's actually take a look at the worker count real fast here as the Banshees continue to poke and prod. 40 to 31. So that just plays into Happy's style. This build that he went, doesn't quite have the worker count to match his opponent this early. But again, you've got pretty consistent chrono boosts from both of the Nexi here. And yeah, so it's really up to these Banshees to close the gap, and I feel like they've been a little bit more successful this game. If nothing else, we see a couple, I think we see 1 or 2 extra Stalkers here, and the forces are kind of running back and forth, so maybe Minigun's attention's a little split, and there's that scan coming in. So he wanted to see, okay, is that robotics facility churning out anything? Is there a robotics bay? Where should I go from here? Because that scan is going to tell Happy whether he should transition into getting some Vikings, which you can see he does have the starport down, and he's also got a Raven down here to be building up that energy. Look at this poor Observer. I say poor because it is well within range of that Raven. And we are going to see it run away, make it Observer. Whew. Thank goodness, man. I am not going to be biased this game, but it's an Observer, man. How can you help but just love those little guys as they fly around? So, speaking of flying around, those 2 Banshees coming back for more. 11 kills total between the 2. And before we get started with some possible action, do note we have Zealot Charge on the way. Weapons 1. We also have Combat Shields, Armor, and Weapons 1 for the Terran player. Infantry. And so here we go now. I like the placement of that cannon. We're going to see some probes get taken out here, which is going to hurt Minigun. In particular, it's because these probes are the ones getting the gas. Just watch the gas income as it's affected. There's a very nice blink right there. The Observer kind of lagging behind a little bit, so that's something to keep in mind. But also note that Happy does have this Marine down here. Zealot, I think, was actually barely skipped out of aggro range for that. 53 to 42 right now in terms of economy. Let's look at the units tab real quick. You can see he's definitely committed more to getting some Stalkers. He got that blink pretty early, so that's helped him out a lot in dealing with this Banshee harassment. I feel like moving forward, maybe Happy won't be quite as aggressive with these in the later stages of the game. You saw how in game number 1, yes, he did project force with those Banshees all throughout the match, up until the point where he attacked with that semi-all-in. Now, maybe he won't feel as committed to that this time because of the threat of the Blink Stalkers. I don't know. Like I said, 9 Stalkers, that's definitely a lot more. That's more than double what we saw last game. And obviously we have the Templar Archives coming in as well. So I feel like Minigun is in a great spot right now. He's got upgrades on the way. He's already got Weapons 1 completed. He's got that Templar Archives. He's going to be able to get Storm going here. You see it's about 20 seconds in. And Happy, Likewise, he's going for his third base. He's got that command center building up right now. And one thing I want to point out here, while these guys are kind of dancing back and forth, I want to point out that Happy has been using his factory pretty smart-like. In game number 1, he used it to create a kind of funnel for units to come up the main ramp to attack that bunker. And he also used it to the similar extent in when he made the expansion. Now, in game number 2, he's headed down here at the natural, obviously, again, with the combination of the command center, creating that funnel for units that want to attack. They're going to have to charge in and basically attack 2x2s, which is not very smart. You do not want to do that. So let's take a look at the Banshee kills real quick. 9 and 13. So we're still seeing Happy try to be very aggressive with this style of play, realizing some success between these two Banshees. I can tell you this is at least paid for itself. So that's good. But let's see what he's been able to get as a result of this time allotted. He's got some ghosts on the way. He does have, wow, I think one Banshee was actually taken out there. You see, actually, we'll just watch this. You see, he's got 14 Marines, 13 Marauders, so I think that's a good mixture between the two. But also notice that Minigun has his third going up, and it's about 50% complete. We're going to see this third land as well, as this Banshee's going to be coming around again, possibly looking for a probe transfer. Is there going to be one? You know, pick off some free kills there. He knows that Happy knows that it's very unlikely he's going to be able to take out this Nexus just with the Banshee and the Marine. So you see how he actually moved the Banshee down there, and the Protoss started moving down towards the center portion of the map, but didn't wholly commit to defending it with all of his forces, which I think is a very smart idea, because that would have left his natural wide open. Looking over here, there's no cannons, nothing of that sort. So back to the production tab, we see again, the third coming up very nicely for Happy. Let's actually spend some time over here. I've been keeping an eye on this base for most of the game because this is where most of the action has been, with these Banshees continuing to do their magic. But see, he's keeping this mineral line on lockdown. That's very smart indeed. So we have an observer coming over here who's going to spot this army. Actually might run headfirst into that turret. Ooh, stopped just in the nick of time. Minigun taking a hit for a couple probes there, up to 9 kills on that Banshee. And as far as weapons and armors, we see Weapons 1, Armor 1 complete, 2-2 on the way, Weapons 2 for the Protoss player, so everything is looking great there. In terms of economy, only a 5-worker difference, and now we have the Terran player moving out. Is he looking to be aggressive here, man? It's hard to say. I think he's going to look to do some damage, but might not be expecting to commit to a kill. As you see, he does have some ghosts, and he was able to land 1 EMP. Not that effective. Nailed a couple Stalkers, that's about it. Minigun does have his High Templar bunched up in this ball right now, so he has to be very careful. A couple well-placed EMPs will really hurt the splash damage. That is the potential of this army, and that's where the real firepower is going to be. Yes, there is a Colossus, and that's good, but the Terran's already building some Vikings, so he's going to be able to counter that without too much difficulty. And that's one of the problems that with Protoss players sometimes they'll make with positioning. Oh, what is this going on? Whoa. We have a drop getting ready to take place in the main base with another push in the center. But what I was going to say is sometimes Protoss players, what they'll do is they'll spread out their forces, seeing players like Minigun, be like, oh, okay, I'll make a big line of stuff here. And then they'll put all of their Colossi at the very edge and leave it completely vulnerable to Viking harass. So that's just something you got to keep in mind. So let's actually pay attention to the fighter here. We have 2 big engagements going on. Number 1, robotics facility going down. The range for the Colossi has been delayed. Meanwhile, in the center of the map, Happy over here with his army moving back and forth, essentially challenging his opponent to go and rescue his main base, saying, you know what, if you go try to defend that with anything more than the minimal amount of forces needed, then I am going to come in and wreck one of your bases. I'll even have my pick. You won't even get to pick for me. So that drop actually ended up doing a lot of damage. Minigun has got to get that robotics facility back up here. You see he's also lost a robotics bay, so 2 structures total lost there. And all the while, I want to point out, yes, the units lost, the Protoss has lost a lot of stuff so far this game, but look at the income, 82 to 65. So having a 4th base just about complete, and what? Nuclear launch detected. Where is this coming through? We have another drop coming in here in the main base, although I'm really curious to see where that nuke is. Uh-oh. It's going to be going down. Probes are able to get to safety. So this Templar Archives is unpowered. So that first drop, man, let me just tell you, Happy hit a home run with that, knocking out so many key tech structures, delaying the army capabilities of Minigun, and that nuke just coming in to wrap it up, man. That was absolutely entertaining. I'm looking forward to seeing what's next. Let me just tell you, we do have another drop coming in for Happy, possibly another one as well. So 2 drops at the same time, again, with the army here in the middle of the map. We are going to see this one engage the cannon first. I feel like he could run down here and try to go for the Nexus first, but we'll see what happens with that. We are watching him run down. Looks like he actually lifted that drop back off. We'll pay attention up here to the top where the High Templar is quite vulnerable to this. Their army has stemmed. Nice feedback. So now Happy is committed to making this drop work, do any damage that he can. The Zealots warping in only a couple at a time, though, so Happy is able to get some decent amount of kills here. This one Marine should be able to finish off that Zealot. Yep, but poor him. He is going to be going down in just a second or two. Looking over at the income again, 77 to 67, another nuke. Uh-oh, Happy coming in. Is this going to be able to land? If he gets this one off, I will have to say, I'll be very impressed indeed. But no, the probes are going to be running away to safety. And once again, that Nexus is just going to take a hit on the shields. Oh, the real casualty, the environment. Save the trees and save the depot that nobody cared about anyways. Nobody loves you, depot. Go home. Wow, I feel like I need to hug something after that. So Minigun, look at the units lost now, 59 to 31.75. So definitely has done a good bit of catch up here. But that tech hit, you know, I feel like Happy did a great job with those surgical strikes, but hasn't been able to follow up capitalizing on the time that he has bought. And talk about a clutch PDD, man. That Viking was about half a second away from an explosive death. But here we go with another Ghost, actually. It is indeed waiting to build up its energy, possibly to launch another nuke. We do have one on the way, about 20% complete, and another one getting launched right here. So this nuke is not so much one hoping that he's going to be able to hit the army, although that it would just be amazing. But I think he's hoping just to kind of kill a few units and also push the Protoss back. The nice thing about those nukes is a lot of players, what they'll do is they'll go into kind of panic mode and they'll start shifting their units all around and, you know, moving everything together, bunching it all up, and then that creates a great opportunity for some cloaked ghosts to come in and EMP the lot of the forces. So just another thing you can keep in mind there as Happy. Okay, I think we're going to be losing both these PDDs. At least they're going to be completely ineffective in about 2 seconds there. Nice blink. Happy coming in again. Almost got that Templar with the EMP. Not quite. Uh-oh, Ghost. No, no. You are not part of the Protoss army. You are not invulnerable to nuclear launches. Oh, there's another drop down here as well. Ghost, what are you doing? Get out of the... Oh! Happy. Happy. Oh, well. We're just gonna assume that that was on purpose. Those Ghosts were not meeting their kill quota for the month, and that is the unfortunate result. So Happy, again, while that was going on, was trying to do a drop down here. We see Minigun is well aware of it. Down here in Warp Gate Central, we have a Dark Shrine on the way as well, so that looks like it could be leading to some interesting tactics later on. I would love to see some DT harassment at one or more of these bases. Look at this, 2 command centers going down, looking to take this one as well as, maybe this one? I don't know. It's a long ways away to build it, but I feel like another nuke, yeah, there it was, just landing in the middle. Not really that effective. Again, it's more of a hurting technique than anything else, I feel like. A Protoss can obviously make a terrible, terrible mistake and run directly into the nuke, but more often than not, it's not going to happen. The Terran player's not going to count on it there. So here we go with another drop in the mineral line. We're going to see that get shut down rather quickly in my Minigun. You see he's got 3-3 Zealots down here compared to the 3-3 Marauders, which unfortunately for the Terran player, Marauders versus Zealots, I would put my money generally on the Zealots. Now obviously Stim and Stutter Step Micro, a little bit of a different story there, but overall, drop was at least successful in diverting attention. But you notice something, how in the past 5 minutes or so, Minigun has been continuously pushing his forces up. Notice how he's at the middle of the map now. His High Templar, I think, are kind of littered around here. You see he's near the watchtower, which is very important. Normally you wouldn't want to put them so close to the edge, but since you have the ability to see such a great distance, it's okay because you're going to have plenty of warning if the forces are going to come in or not. So we're going to see. Oh, almost got a storm there. Almost had a good one. Another nice thing about having the High Templar, and that storm was a good example of it, was the fact that with the Terran player, when he comes into this, if you've already got the High Templar here, they're ready to commit to storming in that choke point, then you can nail some very sexy kills with those clumps of tightly packed Marines and Marauders. And now we're going to see a nice blink come in from come in from Minigun, trying to pick off some of those Vikings. Not too effective, though, but here comes the Archon, and we are going to see possibly a big engagement here. No! It looks like he's going to be running in with the Zealots now charging in full speed ahead. Will he be committing, even though he has lost all of his shields? Be very careful. The nice thing about this for Minigun is look at the health of everything here. Happy has a whole lot of stuff, not a lot of health left in it. So there's the GG from Happy, bringing the series to a 1-1 tie here on Shakura's Plateau. Let's go on to game number 3 and see what happens next.